Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Friday at 11:51 a.m., April 9th, the end of the week. Equities markets, the Federal Reserve, headlines, craziness. I haven't done much macro. I haven't looked at what's going on, but what I like to do to get my picture that I'm interested in is denomination in what matters, which isn't US dollars. It's really M1. It's M1, boys and girls. They inflated the crap out of the financial system and what has done well, what has done poorly. And I've been posting charts over the last couple of days that are quite obvious, quite stark in the reality that they present of what has done well and what has done poorly. And I find that very interesting and meaningful. And that brings us to today's topic of the most interesting contradiction we deal with. Picky to buy, quick to sell, which is something I say quite often, and how to sit on one's hands. And this is more meaningful than ever because if you're looking at technicals on charts denominated in dollars, it looks like everything is in the stratosphere. It looks like everything is ready to collapse. It went straight vertically. You look at Sven wedges, and you're like, this thing's going to come imploding down. And that is quite applicable to the piggy to buy, quick to sell category, where yeah, you're buying and you hope it goes up, but you're going to be hopefully quick to sell before it implodes in on itself. Then you got the how to sit on one's hands ideology, and that's that's a fundamental analysis, more FA rather than TA. And when you look at charts denominated in M1, well, let's take a peek. Let's do the intro. Roll the intro. Today's episode is sponsored by Change Angel, the non-custodial swap exchange for social goods. Stop depositing on exchanges, not your keys, not your crypto, non-custodial DeFi, or nothing at all. Bam! Let's pop it over to the main screen and see who's in stream. Winner in trading, my man, RR, Jeremy in the house. Wishing I was at a desk to watch and taking notes versus stuck in the rat race welding. Myself, my man, I understand how you feel. I've had 6 work calls this morning. Bear in mind, I'm stuck at a desk, but man, it's hard to juggle all this. I was able to get through one session of Noah's office hours this morning, which I'm thankful for. But I've been on like 3 or 4 hours worth of phone calls this morning, and it is the rat race, my friend. 2710 in the house. Yes. Jay Nice, Mint, Hale. Nice Boyer. Hey, Noah, what do you think? Modify. Do not know what it is. Keep your powder dry. Well, you should have always capital. So I'm currently fully allocated. I got plenty of dry powders. About 18% of the portfolio is denominated in stablecoins, generating probably about 45% yield on average. And that's Curve, man, because Curve pays. And I'm bullish on CRV, the asset CRV, so the value is allocated directly to the Curve platform rather than Yearn, which would be auto compounding US dollars, converting APR into APY. That's an interesting conversation unto itself. Nas Boyer, Oracle, aggregator. I mean, I guess you're talking about 1 inch possibly. White Wolf, present, sir. Smash them likes buttons. 22 people in the stream, 8 likes. We can do better. What are your primary considerations when determining what and when to buy, then when, why to sell? So I'm extremely picky to buy no matter what, whether it's fundamentally driven, which is really just my time horizon on a position, or technically driven, whether there's an actual opportunity from a technical perspective, like exactly what you see on the screen. So I'm watching this thing dip down, smack into the full bar, the full engulfing bearish candle down to the 100 SMA in the 4 hour for XTK, and that's your buy opportunity. That's seller exhaustion. This is a massive capitulation, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, the RSI is going to be a big pullback when you have such a downward candle, or the extent of how downward the candle is. But this thing ran out of steam. This will be fascinating to see what plays out. But this asset, the fundamentals, I got a large allocation, and I'm not thinking too much about a wick like this. I'm waiting pretty much for the middle of next month, and in the process, accumulating the crap out of XTK vis-a-vis staking on the X token market. Getting 300% on XTK Ethereum, getting like 400% on 1 inch Ethereum, and getting another over 400% on Aave paired with Ethereum, which is awesome. So I got three pools going on: the X Token Cafe, the XTK, XNB, and X of AB, and that's cranking out a whole bunch of XTK rewards. Look at that, 75 cents. That's a 25% candle. And this is why you don't throw 100 grand into an asset like this. And if you do have a large allocation, which this happens to be, this is over 100 between the three pools, they're paired with Ethereum. So there is dollar stabilization, dollar vis-a-vis Ethereum. So the best thing to say is Ethereum denominated stabilization. Um, you're not going to, so this is obviously Ethereum stabilized 1 inch. This is Ethereum stabilized Aave, and this is Ethereum stabilized XTK. So the best way to think of the pools, I'll give a brief digression. So XTK, let's say, went down 25%, but when paired with Ethereum, Ethereum didn't go down 25%. So the pool position probably went down, it definitely went down a fraction of the depreciation that XTK experienced. Anyway, yeah, XTK paired with Ethereum, and exactly, Frank. XTK paired with Ethereum on Uniswap, and you throw it in the XTK farm position. Memes, but basically what it is uh, an a monetary policy incentivized LP position. It's an LP position, and they have the monetary policy of the platform, which has a decaying inflationary curve, and clearly at least a decent amount of deflationary pressures. I think the monetary policy is a little loose. There needs more incentive to disrupt circulating supply, because when you have your escrowed assets start to become available, there could be a flood of liquidations. All of a sudden, millions of XTK become available in the coming weeks and months. Um, and those are all obviously incentivized emissions. There's a temptation to liquidate. But all in all, this is an extraordinary low cap asset. 197. We're talking about a $14 million asset. So what everyone needs to know, picky to buy, quick to sell, sit on one's hands, that's a very subjective debate that we have to have with oneself. It's a matter of portfolio size. It's a matter of position sizing. It's a matter of portfolio balance. You shouldn't be throwing 50%, 75%, or anywhere near the vast majority of a portfolio into an ultra low cap, ultra high risk, and volatile asset. For instance, my raw XTK exposure is, I'll give you a percent. Raw XTK exposure, how much do I have? Is, oh my goodness, it's like 0.1% of the portfolio. Um, 10%, 30, 15, 5, 5. Yeah, it's a fraction of a percent of the portfolio. So food for thought. And that's an absolute requirement. Don't overextend on high risk positions. I'm very thankful and happy that Noah's office hours is up and running, and I'm able to provide people feedback in order to better think of their portfolio with regard to risk considerations. And in many regards, no matter the portfolio size, you still have the same risk considerations. And there's a reality, obviously, that with a smaller portfolio, you're going to have to take on more risk in order to grow a portfolio so that you could break it down in a more strategic fashion. But you still should know how to manage the money whence it comes. If you're able to turn 10, 15, $20,000 into 200, 300, $400,000, now all of a sudden you can take 25% of your portfolio denominated in USDC, and you got $100,000 earning $40,000 a year as a salary, as an employee, as income. And then you can take another $100,000 of Ethereum, pair it with USDC for dollar stabilization, and you're generating, 50% on, let's say, Alpha Homura V1 at a 1.5x leverage. So it's a relatively risk minimized Ethereum position, or Ethereum exposed position, coupled with USDC for dollar stabilization. It's a wonderful platform. I happen to have nothing in there because I'm currently allocated towards Curve, because you're getting about 30 something percent on your Ethereum when paired with SETH, which is synthetic Ethereum by the Synthetics platform. We could also pair Ethereum with STF, with his staked Ethereum 2.0, and you're actually getting about 5% interest on your Ethereum additionally in that curve pool position. Let's go back to the stream and see what I'm missing. Nas Boyer, not sure if I'm allowed to link to this. I don't see the link, my friend. Any opportunities for XTK on Uni? I hit that already. Frank, cool thing to look into. Nas Boyer, I didn't see it. Barry, digi, yield farming on 1 inch. Yeah, that's going to be up and running soon. Now, hopefully that brings liquidity to Ren DGB, and that's what the space is sorely needing. So that'll obviously be a Ren DGB 1 inch pairing. So there's liquidity with 1 inch versus USDC. So bam, all of a sudden, because of this incentivized pool position, we should have some nice liquidity between USDC and Ren DGB. So what these incentivized positions facilitate is the liquidification of the markets, and that's good to see. I wish there was a dollar stabilized Ren DGB position that had decent volume. You need the volume in order for the pool to effectively rebalance, hopefully consistently, establishing that dollar stabilization. So that's what a pairing of RAND-DGB and USDC would provide, which would be a historic event for Digibyte. Digibyte is historically an extraordinarily volatile asset, which is very risky for the portfolio. But but if you could pair it with USDC, what will you have? You'll have exposure to Digibyte, but you'll have dollar stabilization. So if Digibyte goes to $1, you're not going to make 10x on your money. You're probably going to make about 4 to 5x on your money because of the dollar stabilized component. But if Digibyte goes to 4 cents, you're not going to lose 50% of your money. You'll probably lose 25, 30% of your money. That's the beauty of pairing with a stablecoin and the effect that a liquid LP position provides. When I say liquid LP position, I mean an LP position that actually has a decent amount of volume going through it, so the pool is constantly rebalancing. What did you mean raw XTC exposure? XTC? I probably meant XTK. So as of right now, it's worth mentioning. Other than Polkadot, Cosmos, and the various platforms on Polkadot and Cosmos, there's not one thing I own that is not in an LP position, that isn't paired with something, that isn't earning interest, that isn't staked, incentivized, or something. Everything I have is working for me. Even Bitcoin. Bitcoin is in MakerDAO. MakerDAO is allowing me to borrow DAI. That DAI is in Curve, earning, I believe, 35%, give or take, in the 3-pool position. So I'm earning 30% on about 30% of my Bitcoin. So that's about 10%. I'm earning 10% on Bitcoin in CRV emissions. And I'm bullish on CRV, which is awesome. Otherwise, I could throw that DAI over in on Yearn and get auto compounding dollars. Very interesting stuff. How long do you think that 40-50% yield on Curve will last, and how much do you think that will be affected during the next bear market? What's pertinent is that yield is incentivized, and that comes from their monetary policy, which was Curve manifesting their own fiat in many regards. In almost all regards, I argue nowadays. So as liquidity enters the pools, that incentivized yield is going to decrease. When we get to a next bear market, it doesn't matter so the incentivized emissions are going to decrease. Instead of 40 to 50%, you'll probably be getting 5%, 2.5%, but it doesn't matter. Whatever percent it is, as long as it's double, it's single digits, high single digits, there we still have double digits, it still outperforms pathetic banking interest rates or bonds and treasuries. They're worthless. And two, as volatility increases, as the markets start to retreat from bullishness, transaction volumes will likely increase. So the liquidity flow into the pools, transaction volumes will increase. You're going to get transaction yield on the pools. And that's really the long-term sustainable source of revenue from LP positions. It's not the incentivized yield. All these protocols, all these DAOs, they either have a fixed emissions rate or a decaying inflationary emissions rate coupled with deflationary components, which is exactly why you could look at them in terms of the creation of a fiat currency. And I highlight the word currency because currencies have monetary velocity, inflation, deflation, and properties of money. So these DAO assets that have emission rates and incentivized supply disruptions have much more in common with a currency than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's not a currency. That's awkward. But the curve asset's a currency. BNT is a currency. Like literally, if you talk about those assets as compared with the Federal Reserve and the United States fiat is, it's identical. You could throw these assets on Aave. You could use them to collateralize a debt position. You could borrow against them. There's inflation, deflation, and velocity. Currency. How about them apples? Jay Nice says when a 1000x only covers the FVs. Well, position size does matter. And frankly, if you're worried about FVs, you should be using loop ring, diversify, limit orders on 1 inch, which are completely free. I mean, literally all you have to do is click limit order, and there's no gas. It's free. So, folks, honestly, I'm sorry, complaining about gas fees on Ethereum. Um, you could use obviously Keeper DAO, free Ethereum transactions. You could use Maka, free Ethereum transactions. And you could use limit orders on 1 inch for free Ethereum transactions. And Loopring and Diversify are basically zero. It's pennies for Ethereum transactions. So there's plenty of ways to execute free Ethereum transactions. Now, clearly, you're not going to be interacting with L1 level smart contracts like Curve vaults and Yearn vaults and Armor insurance protocol options, and those are relatively expensive L1 interactions, but that'll improve over time. It shouldn't. It does. Ethereum fees do not restrict in any way, shape, or form the capacity to interact with the Ethereum platform to a meaningful extent to structure a portfolio, so on and so forth. Interacting with Uniswap, like adding liquidity to an LP position, um, it's moderate. It's not the most expensive. You're not talking about a couple $100s a transaction. Maybe 30, 40, 50. So if you got like $1,000, 2,000, 5,000, you could put Ethereum and USDC or into an LP position and have dollar stabilized Ethereum. Be a little expensive going for the Alpha Homura V1 leverage type position, but that's just the nature of what it is. Work with what you have. You have to play your portfolio. It's your portfolio. It's like playing a game of poker. You have your hand, you have to play your hand. One, don't play with anyone else's hand. You play your hand. You play with what you have available. If you're working with a $1, 2, 3, 4, $5,000 portfolio, clearly you're going to be restricted on gas fees. Are you going to consider Binance Smart Chain? Personally, I'd opt for Matic, Polygon, and Phantom, and there's liquidity that's going on those protocols that is starting to spin up, and it's basically trivial transaction fees to interact with Polygon. I mean, literally, Matic Polygon makes Binance Smart Chain look ridiculously expensive. You're talking about like $1 a transaction or whatever the hell it is. I spend $2.50 a transaction for 1 inch on BSC, and on Matic it's going to be pennies. So Binance Smart Chain, it's expensive compared to what's being built. That's either a side chain, an L2, or basically really closely tied to the Ethereum platform in some way. And dare we get into Polkadot and Cosmos, and that's just going to be an absolute Cambrian explosion. Thanks for the response. How do you feel about BNT long term? Do you feel it has much long term potential as Uni, given Uniswap's current network effect? My man, you just hit the nail on the head. You can have the best technology in the world. DigiByte's better than Bitcoin, but it means nothing when you're talking about network effect. That's the name of the game. So it will. Bancor, the odds are highly against it disrupting the momentum of Uniswap, but that does not diminish the long-term viability of Bancor, which is an absolutely ridiculous portfolio. I myself have easily a couple of percent of the portfolio in Bancor, earning double-digit percent interest. Everything is earning interest. I put it all to work. Generate a salary. If your goal should be to generate either a portion of your yearly salary just by putting assets to work, and your goal should be to generate exactly how much you're making now from work using your assets. And once you do that, then you're winning. That's how you win. When you can replace your work salary trading time for money with your assets working for you instead of you working for your money, now you're talking. Now that's the goal. Because if your hope is to turn 8-cent digibyte into $8 digibyte, what the heck are you gonna do with the money? You're gonna sell it for dollars? You bought Digibyte because you hate dollars, and now it's gonna go to $8, and you're gonna sell your Digibyte for dollars? Where's the logic in that? You need to know how to manage your money. You need to know how to monetize your money, how to put assets to work. You need to know about risk management, risk tolerance, and just accept the reality that you're taking risk. If you have a vast majority of your portfolio allocated to Digibyte, you're taking an enormous, enormous risk. Now, the fact that Digibyte is now available on the Ethereum platform in the form of RenDGB, now you're talking. Now you have the possibility of establishing risk considerate positions. Now, if you compare RenDGB with USDC, that would be a risk mitigated position. And I'm pairing it RenBTC with 1inch, there's going to be risk, but at least it's paired, which means the volatility of either individual asset is muted to be more closely tied to the least volatile asset in the pair. And that's the way pool pairing facilitates a strategic, well thought out, intelligent portfolio. Lewis, do you have a hard minimum position size for an LP staking position? No. What I like to do is I could give you reference, food for thought. 25% of my portfolio is Bitcoin, 15% is Ethereum. Not that my balance means anything. It's just what I've settled on currently. 15% Ethereum. Interestingly enough, about 15% is Ren, but that's not because that's intentional. I bought Ren at 6 cents. So, and they're locked in dark nodes, so I can't liquidate, which it's an uncomfortable reality. I just can't sell them. So, 15% of the portfolio is dollars based on what I'm looking at right now. 8% of the portfolio is Curve. 5% is Cosmos. I bought Cosmos for like $2. It's like $20. I bought synthetics for 70 cents. It's $19.78. Bear in mind, there's people that bought synthetics in 2019 for like 5 cents. And it's at $19.78. So this is a crazy game we're playing. Charlie G's in the house. How you doing, bro? Haven't seen you in a bit. What's up? What else we got? What else we got today? 12:14. Let's wrap it up soon. Santiment came out with a new platform called SanR, which allows us to do some price targets and so on and so forth. That's free to interact with, and you can see, my performance, whether I'm actually making money. But this is trading, and I'm a shit trader. I don't trade. I allocate, and I think more about risk and balance and structure and fundamentals and long term, much more than short term. But this is fun nonetheless. I look at technicals. I have a capacity to draw lines on a damn chart, and I throw some predictions up. So it's a cute platform. You can log in. It's all decentralized. It's all L2 Ethereum actually. So literally, when you log in, it's literally it's a sign transaction on your ledger or MetaMask. So it's no gas, no nothing, but it's just a signing, which proves that you are the owner of your public key, which is really awesome. So there's something about sentiment that has always caught my eye. I don't usually interact with a variety of these platforms, but the I have interacted with sentiment because of one, how they've communicated. They're very decent, very reasonable, and the information that Santiment provides is completely invaluable. And when they mentioned that the functionality of SanR, I definitely got a kick out of it, the capacity to be speculative, not taking risk, but more so from a metrics aggregation standpoint, we could assess our actual performance as if we made real bets with real money. What would you do with 10K in stables? Pause. Let's put it this way. If 10K in stables is 15% of your portfolio, I'd put that bad boy in Curve, and I would take another 10%, 5% of the portfolio, and I'd buy Curve, and I'd lock that V Curve for VE Curve, and I'd have $4,000, $4,500, give or take. No, you could get even more with like USDP or USDN. You can get like 80% of your money. Then you got $8,000 a year in Curve income. So that's food for thought. But with the 10K in stables, the first thing you do if you're a new entrant to the crypto space is you do USDC. Convert your money to USDC, throw it in Aave. You start from there. This is if you're starting. Now you're getting interest. You're getting 10% on your money. And then you could talk, listen, ask questions, and figure out what the heck you want to do with your money because this is a bank account. This is the most awesome bank account I could possibly think of. This makes brick and mortar or whatever the heck these traditional finance folks are cranking out look pathetic. This is a 10% interest bearing bank account on US dollars that are actually stored in a deprecated bank account. It's USDC. To me, USDC and GUSD mean everything. If you're talking about Gemini and basically Coinbase created USDC, and they're the most regulated stablecoins, and they're backed by one-to-one dollars in a bank account. And you're talking about 10, 11% interest on your money. And then once you have these positions, you have capital that you've gotten into the crypto space, and you're going to be able to then figure out what the heck you want to do with your money and how much risk you want to take and what kind of strategic positions you can take because it's all going to be a technical learning experience to be able to do anything really. My problem is just navigating the steps involved in getting my assets into the LPs. Sure, that's a complexity. I mean, I wish I could do better. Check out DeFi Dad. Find them on Twitter. Bankless HQ helps with stuff like that. They have great content. And obviously, when Noah's office hours are open, I'm more than happy to help to the best of my abilities. The platform facilitates screen sharing, and I could show some examples and stuff in a much more one-on-one setting. Yeah, it's obviously everyone's choice. It's not free. I don't hopefully it'll be a good venture. I really hope to be able to just help people and talk and teach and I would really love for that to replace my work. It'd be much more fulfilling and satisfying ultimately. The Proton chain. Yeah, I don't consume it. I know about it, and I'm hopeful. It's Metals chain. I'm hopeful that it gains traction and is consumed. And I always like Marshall Hayner. Frankly, the fact that they're still going after 2017 and when their initial launch, their ICO, is quite admirable. So, and keep an eye on Alquo. They rebranded and pivoted. They got some stuff going on. These are old school 2017 names that's worth following up on. And I don't have any positions in that. I still have an Alquo Masternode, but I don't know how their new DeFi uh, um, concepts are going to interact with an old school proof of work masternode implementation. So I don't know, but old cool names that are still in the game and still trying to make it pretty cool. Um, what percentage of total portfolio do you personally run in crypto? This is what I'm fighting with currently. Um, yeah, do you ever think of rebalancing or just to stables within crypto? Yes. So for me, it's all about balance with stables. As there's more risk in the system, I will allocate more to stables. For instance, right now I'm seeing much less risk in the system. Particularly, maybe there's a volatility event, a liquidity event, sure, but all the charts are completely bottomed. In fact, here's an interesting one. QQQ. So if you look at the Nasdaq, folks talking about it in dollar denomination, but look what happens when you look at it on the monthly. This thing looks so incredibly bullish. You guys see this MACD down here? This thing looks like it's ready to explode. So a very simple technical analysis of Nasdaq is that it's barely coming out of a bear market. Could you believe that? Nasdaq at 4,000 or whatever the heck it's at today. The S&P, what I don't even know the numbers. Point being, this thing looks like it's coming out of a ridiculous bear market. It's not even bullish. It's barely moved to the upside. Meanwhile, everything's at all-time highs. But the problem is the denominator. Once you change the denominator, this gives you a very different fundamental picture on the state of the entire monetary system. They printed so much money, they distorted the system so much that equities markets are at all-time high. Yet, from a technical perspective, they are completely destroyed, bottomed out, just coming out of oversold, and just starting to have bullishness. How about them apples? So, when it comes to percentage of value allocated to crypto versus equities and physical metals, PM, so on and so forth, majority crypto. I have value, probably 15% of all capital is allocated towards equities, particularly battery metal miners, long-term 5, 10 year play in lithium, cobalt, nickel, and graphite. And, there's a small position in physical metals. All right, maybe not so small because I have gold miners, silver miners, and streamers. So there's, probably it's much smaller than my broad equities allocations. But there's way too much opportunity in the crypto space. For me, it's a no-brainer. This is where the vast majority of capital belongs. How about making vids and putting them on Patreon? Not for me, my friend. That's DeFi dad type stuff. I have no time. I barely have time to get on the YouTube stream and talk on Noah's office hours. So I'm more than happy to continue to try my best to provide office hours and expand that venture. But if you're interested in videos, DeFi Dad's the way to go. What do you think about NFT's future? NFT's cool. I love Gods Unchained. I have a very nice Gods Unchained deck. It's very nice. I have a level 118 at this point. It's pretty cool. So I love that game. It's wonderful. So NFTs in general, it's massive. It's property. It's you can authenticate the ownership of assets. It changes everything. It's equivalent to trading cards, collecting them as a kid and having something because you could have that in the crypto space, but now you could verify the authenticity of an asset. And best part is the actual asset doesn't degrade in quality. So it's an always maximum grade or whatever grading service you use for paper cards. It's a maximum grade at all times for an NFT. So it's just barely starting. I have zero NFT exposure other than a very nice Gods Unchained deck. I think it's worth like 8 Ethereum at this point. I bought that thing when 8 Ethereum was like $300. So it was like a $2,400 Gods Unchained deck. So now all of a sudden my Gods Unchained deck's worth like 16 grand. Yay! So Gods Unchained is retaining value. Those NFTs are retaining their Ethereum denomination, and Ethereum's going up in value. So ipso facto, my Gods Unchained deck is going up in value significantly. Alice in the house. Always a pleasure. Haven't seen you in a while. I hope all is well. Enjoy your walks in your beautiful landscape. My man. Mustafa, what do you think about NFTs? I hit you on that one. Ben, I can't help but take the USDT FUD seriously. Makes me nervous of Curve. So I used to as well, but they have a lot of partnerships and they have a lot of power and momentum. And USDT, the only way I see them as they're it's manipulative. But what do you think shadow banking and euro dollars are? It's money doing what money does. It's wealthy people collateralizing the shit out of anything they could find and using that to facilitate dollar denomination in the crypto space. Keep billionaires throwing up a yacht. Give me 100 grand. Give me $10 million. Here's my $1 billion yacht as collateral. So these dollars aren't, as we are well aware, aren't backed by one-to-one US dollars, but they're backed by assets that have value, which is exactly what MakerDAO does. MakerDAO gives you dollar pegged programmatic stablecoins, $1. They're not backed by dollars, they're backed by Bitcoin or Ethereum, assets that have uh, variable dollar denomination, dollar valuation. So I wonder if internally they have a liquidation process. They probably operate like legacy banking systems. If there's a collateral shortfall because of volatility, they're going to call up a billionaire and say, "Yeah, I need an extra 5 million to recollateralize your position." It's probably the way it works. Louis, you're very welcome. Ben says play good as an NFT trade for me. It's outside the scope of my expertise. I don't know anything about it. Charlie G. Wow. 36 people in the stream, 20 likes. We can do better. I'm going to wrap it up 12:26 p.m. on a Friday, April 9th. I really appreciate everyone joining. I hope it helps. Noah's office hours will be open as much as I possibly can. If you're interested in one-on-one, if you have any questions, you want me to take a look at the portfolio, you want to talk about risk, you want to talk about insurance, you want to talk about protecting your money, or maybe you're new to the DeFi space and you're like, I got cash in a bank account. Let's say you got 50 grand in a bank account. You're losing money. You're losing 15% a year. Take $50 of it, get it onto Coinbase, get it onto Gemini, turn it into USDC, turn it into GUSD, and you throw it into Aave. And you're going to get your taste of actually earning not pathetic returns as compared to a bank account. The first thing I always recommend is experimentation, because you're going to have to know how to install a Chrome plugin for MetaMask. You're going to have to know how to use a ledger device. So you have to learn these things. You have to experiment. So these are the types of things that I talk about on Noah's office hours. I encourage people to step outside of their comfort zone, experiment a little bit. And I always tell everyone to start small. Don't take risk. Avoid risk. Protect your money. You work too damn hard for it. Just say. Insurance, risk, that's what matters. I thank you all for joining. I will see you next week. Peace.